The year is 2028, Russia. With the construction of an international gas line at the orders of the Russian government called the North Stream, a new administrative entity was formed in the Novinsk region located between Leningrad and the Gulf of Finland. Despite being one of the smallest regions in both territory and population, this area became a gateway to Europe and obtained the status of the Special Economic Zone, aimed at active international partnerships and ensuring the safety of international investments. Tax exempts and the accumulation of cutting-edge business practices were meant to make the Novinsk region a very attractive place for joint ventures. Essentially, this special economic zone became the next Skolkovo, Russia's Silicon Valley. Not in science and technology, but in the financial and industrial economic sector. The life of the region was centered around two compact but highly modernized cities built over a short period of time. Tarkov along the E18 International Highway and Novinsk on Highway A123. Tarkov was intended to become a financial and industrial centre and was abundant with various transportation routes, railroads, a seaport, and an interchange for road vehicles. Novinsk, on the other hand, was host to executive headquarters and official government buildings which managed the Special Economic Zone. I say was, because it didn't remain a stable epicentre for long after its completion. 2 years ago, Tarkov became the scene of an international scandal centred around the activities of a subsidiary of a large transatlantic corporation called TerraGroup. Its local branch, TerraGroup Labs, were conducting illegal activities under the guise of official contracts with the regional government in the agricultural and mining industry sectors. The investigative authorities uncovered numerous dubiously hidden transactions and corrupt connections between representatives of local government officials, prominent local business executives, and members of TerraGroup Labs. During the subsequent criminal and administrative lawsuits against high-ranking executives of TerraGroup, the company gained the attention of the Russian Special Services, which had previously suspected the research conducted by the company and its subsidiaries of having a disruptive impact on Russian national security and its strategic interests. For example, the investigation revealed that TerraGroup Labs and its proxy companies showed a great deal of interest towards regions that had previously belonged to the Ministry of Defense, and many that hosted military bases or other special sites that Russia wanted to remain secret to the wider world. The exact reason for such attention to these landmarks remains, even to this day, unknown, or at least neither side is willing to admit why this area is of such importance. It is well known, however, that after a 6-month standoff on the international diplomatic scene between Russian government and TerraGroup Labs, that security forces on TerraGroup Labs' payroll provoked an armed conflict between Russian Interior Ministry troops and a UN peacekeeping force that was deployed to the region to maintain the peace while the Russian government were conducting their investigations. This one incident led to further escalation and deployment of UN's Rapid Reaction Force, creating further conflict involving the peacekeepers, Interior Ministry forces, and now 2 private military companies. While none of this information is verifiable, the first of the private military companies to appear by name were the Bears. The theory goes that the Bears were established with the involvement of the Russian government as possibly the only adequate answer to the emerging threat of both TerraGroup Labs, the now aggravated UN peacekeepers, and the international community at large. The next obvious move for the government would have been to declare martial law on the territory. However, since the employees of TerraGroup were considered citizens of some of the leading world powers wielding nuclear weapons, the outcome of an open conflict was as predictable as it was unacceptable. Another side effect of the occupation of Russia by an international military force was that the state's own police and investigative bodies lost the freedom of investigation that they enjoyed before the incident, now bound by necessity to negotiate with international control and observation groups. The second private military company, USEC, were openly employed by TerraGroup and are backed by the UN Peacekeeper Force also. USEC is said to covertly interfere with the course of the official investigation into TerraGroup Labs' activities. According to Russian intelligence agencies, USEC operatives regularly destroy evidence and neutralize potential witnesses to this day. And in direct violation of the international court orders, TerraGroup Labs continue with research on several unknown projects in the area. To counter this, the Bear operatives also conduct targeted local operations aimed at uncovering and delivering to the authorities evidence implicating the TerraGroup's illegal activities. It should be noted though that according to the Russian government, any actions carried out in response by unofficial armed forces is considered illegal by default, making USEC the #1 target for any operations in the region. The tactical situation in the region today has come to a rather awful stalemate. Some would even regard it as a clusterfuck. The borders with Finland remain under the control of the Russian border guard. The border guard have sealed off all routes leading to the west, stationing troops to create a perimeter. The sea routes in the Gulf of Finland are constantly patrolled by the Baltic Fleet, and the only nearby airport in Novinsk has been rendered inoperable, its air corridors being covered by air artillery. The Bears, TerraGroup Lab employees, their guardians, USEC PMCs, and the UN peacekeeping forces are all cut off from the outside world. With the UN presence barely leaving their heavily fortified bases, Russian authorities are unable to forcefully solve the problem. The only chance for a relatively peaceful solution to the conflict is now in the hands of the Bears, provided of course that they can find and deliver irrefutable proof of a strategic threat from TerraGroup Labs to the Russian government. Today, almost 2.5 years after the incident, it can be said that the political situation looks nothing like a random coincidence, rather a well-planned and carefully prepared military and political provocation of Russia. The question is, however, who would want to provoke Russia to undertake such drastic measures? And what is their ultimate goal? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any ideas about what you'd like to hear next in the Tarkov world, let me know in the comments. Until next time.